Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Meetinghouse of Provincetown, where we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person and where we support each other on our spiritual search for truth and meaning. My name is Reverend Kate Wilkinson, and I'm so glad that you are here this morning. Welcome to those of you in the room, and welcome also to those of you joining us from home via our live stream. Before we continue with our worship service, I have just a few announcements to share. Thank you so much to those of you who have already started bringing in Halloween candy for the Trunk or Treat event for the kids of Provincetown over at Mata Field. We will be hosting a trunk again this year, so please let me know if you'd like to dress in green and hand out candy and help me turn my car into a giant frog. Don't forget to check out the great Women's Week lineup, including 2 concerts here in the sanctuary. We have Zoe Lewis and Lucy Wainwright Roche on Monday night, that's tomorrow, and Saturday night Zoe is here with Katie Curtis. Also, Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, there will be our 2nd annual Women's Week softball game, the Provincetown Peaches versus the Butchtown Bells. I will be, not on the field, I will be at the refreshments table, and all of the proceeds of that bake sale will go to our little free pantry that we run here at the Meetinghouse. So please let me know if you could bake something for our refreshment table for the softball game and support our pantry. We had a really great safety meeting this week, so thank you so much to those of you who came to that. And one of the things that came up is that a lot of people aren't aware of some of our emergency exits. So please note that if there were ever a fire or a need to evacuate this space quickly, there is a fire escape right here at the front right of the sanctuary. And on the ground floor, in addition to the door that you usually come in, there are 2 side doors out of the main foyer. There is also a back door to the Meetinghouse, which is between my office and the kitchen. So if you're not familiar with those areas, just familiarize yourself with our exits. And our place to meet up, should we ever have to evacuate, is across the street inside Whalers Wharf. This morning we are taking up a very special collection for an organization called Latinx in Action, and you're going to hear more about this at the end of the service today, as well as about an event coming up next weekend which will also benefit this great organization. You should have received a postcard about this on your way in. Our offertory will come after the sermon this morning, so it's a little bit of a different order than usual, and we'll end with a closing hymn. We hope that those of you attending in person today will stick around for a little while after the service ends for coffee and conversation downstairs in Acker Bosworth Hall. Now let's take a moment to affirm our community's covenant. You can find this on a little purple laminated card in your pews, or you can just listen to me because I'm going to say it line by line, and I invite you to repeat each line after me. Love is the spirit of this Meetinghouse.
Love is the spirit of this Meetinghouse.
This is our great covenant. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now, as we light our chalice here in the sanctuary, I invite those of you watching from home to light a candle wherever you are, and in that way we can feel connected even while we are apart. And this morning, I invite Kathleen and Lorraine to light our chalice for us.
Our chalice lighting words this morning are by Reverend Sherry Woodbury. Spark of the Spirit cupped in earth's embrace, light of love alive in all creation. As we kindle this flame, we rekindle our connection to the sacred web of life. Our hymn now is hymn 360 in the gray hymnal. Please stand as you are able.
Please join us now in a time of meditation and prayer. During this time or at any time during the service, you are welcome to light a silent candle at the table to the right of the pulpit, where there is a journal to record your thoughts and prayers. After the prayer, we will sing together Spirit of Life, hymn number 123, which you can also find on those purple laminated cards. We'll sing it first in English and then in Spanish. We particularly hold up our prayers for peace today as we take in the news about the violence erupting in Israel and Palestine. May it not be too late to pull back from the precipice of war. And may our love surround all breaking, grieving, and fearful hearts. Our prayer this morning is by Adam Slate. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, Spirit of hope, Spirit of justice, God known by many different names. You have given us a day unique from any other. You have connected us, all of us, with each other and with the world in ways that are largely a mystery to us. You have given us little instruction other than to be present in our lives, to feel wonder at the creations of the universe, and to love one another. You have put gifts and challenges in our paths. joys and sorrows, strengths and frailties, some of which we have already encountered, and others we have yet to discover. On this unique day, may we receive exactly what it is that we need. Amen.
The reading this morning is by Reverend Laura Bogle, entitled, "This is Our Home, but Not Just Ours." We gather here to remember this is our home, but not just ours. This land we live on, this water we drink, this air we breathe, these old dunes that hold us steady to our ground even as they shift. These forests that give us their healing green, these waves that give us their flashes of blue and white, these flowers that give us their beauty and fragrance, these fields that give us our daily bread, these stars that show us our place. The wilderness and the tame backyards, all of it, our home. We remember the ancestors who have lived on this land and who have shaped it, the Wampanoag, the settlers, the fishermen, the farmers, the hunters, the immigrants, the artists, the families, the explorers, the business people, the engineers, the builders, the scientists, the teachers, the workers, the leaders. We inherit their choices. We honor the animals and creatures that have made their home in this land, the ones here now and the ones that used to be here. And we envision the future generations who will live on this land and let their voices fill our hearts. We gather here to remember this is our home, but not just ours.
Our next hymn is number 159 in that same gray hymnal. This is my song. You'll recognize the tune as Finlandia. That's 159. This is my song. Please rise as you are able. We have these family friends, Chris and Meredith Thompson, who are folk singers. Years ago, they spent a lot of time singing in bars and cafes and at church coffee houses. One day they were waiting backstage at a church, which happened to be a religious education classroom. And as they waited to be called on stage, they looked at the walls. On one wall was a bulletin board with a collection of children's letters to God. They were cute and funny and sad. One letter said, "Dear God, thank you for my little brother. But what I really asked for was a puppy." Another letter said, "Dear God, who drew the lines around the countries? Who drew the lines around the countries? That's a good question. I think about that question now as violence erupts once again in the Middle East, as the war in Ukraine stretches into another year. Who drew the lines around the countries? Surely it wasn't God. They say that once you have seen Earth from space, you are never the same. Space philosopher Frank White calls this the overview effect. Astronauts who have looked down on the Earth experience a shift in cognitive awareness, a new commitment to the environment and to world peace, a realization that we are all one people living on one beautiful blue-green Earth. And yet there is a way in which, quite fundamentally, we live in a fractured world. Here's what I mean. A century ago, almost everyone believed that the ground beneath us was still. Australia had always been an island. Brazil and Senegal had always been separated by the Atlantic. But Alfred Wegener changed that. Studying the maps of the ocean floor, Wegener noticed that the continents complemented one another like puzzle pieces. Doesn't the east coast of South America fit exactly against the west coast of Africa, as if they had once been joined? He wrote to a friend. And Wegener spotted other mysteries. Identical species of ferns and lizards were spread across Chile, India, and even Antarctica. How could they have traveled so far? In his 1915 book, The Origin of Continents and Oceans, he proposed a radical new idea: that the Earth's land had once been clumped together in a single mass, which he called Pangea. And for eons, it had rumbled apart into the continents that we now know. We were once one continent on all of Earth. Wegener was laughed at and ridiculed for his hypothesis, and he died never having seen his theory accepted by the wider world. But decades later, scientists discovered tectonic plates, and Wegener's theory was proven correct. This is our inheritance, our ancient story, the fracturing of the world, our separation from one another. Through the shifting of land mass and the evolution of different cultures and languages. We used to live within one border, and now we live within many. Who drew the lines around the countries? This weekend, which is the weekend that we used to refer to as Columbus Day weekend, and which now leads up to Indigenous Peoples Day, has me thinking about the lines around our own country. We know that today the United States stretches from sea to shining sea, and that we vigilantly patrol our border with Mexico and somewhat our border with Canada. But it didn't start that way. For thousands of years, North America was inhabited by native people who moved freely without checkpoints or barbed wire. Approximately 600 tribes speckled the landscape of what is now the United States. Eastern woodland tribes included the 5 nations of the Iroquois Confederacy: Abenakis, Shawnees, Delawares, Micmacs, Mohegans, and Pequots. In the southeast, there were the Powhatans, Catawbas, Cherokees, Creek, Natchez, Choctaw, and Chickasaw. Pueblos, Zuni, Navajo, and Hopis represented some of the adobe-dwelling bands in the arid Southwest. We are worshiping today on the land of the Wampanoag, the people of the first light. These tribes stewarded the land and migrated across it. And while there were certainly distinct territories, the lines were not mapped out in a way that Europeans were used to or understood. Communities moved freely throughout the land based on the seasons, the migration of animals, the needs of the people, agreements with neighboring tribes, and sometimes disagreements. As we learned in school, in the year 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue and landed in America. Where he actually landed was the Bahamas. And Columbus, in fact, never set foot in North America. Instead, he explored the islands of the Caribbean and also Central and South American coasts. He was Italian, but working for the King and Queen of Spain. So he claimed the New World for Spain. And it didn't matter that there were already people here. Columbus is remembered as a daring and path-breaking explorer who transformed the New World. Yet his actions also unleashed changes that would eventually devastate the native populations that he and his fellow explorers encountered. It's estimated that in the 130 years following first contact, Native America lost 95% of its population. Tomorrow is Indigenous Peoples Day. But here in Massachusetts, it's still on the books as Columbus Day. There's a group of people petitioning to change that, but there is also a group of people fighting it. They say that getting rid of Columbus Day is disrespectful to Italian American heritage. We have such limited energy and time. I can't really imagine using my energy to fight for a day honoring a man whose legacy is genocide and slavery. Celebrating Columbus and other explorers like him as heroes dismisses the devastating losses experienced by Indigenous peoples and the ongoing effects of colonialism. We see the legacy of colonialism in how we police our borders today, the way we respect white immigrants more than immigrants of color, the way we see people who don't speak our language as less than, the way a rhetoric of fear is used around immigration, just like it was used to describe Native people as dangerous and animal-like when the settlers began spreading westward. When we gained our independence from England, the 13 colonies became the United States. But that was not the end, but only the beginning of expansion. New states, the Louisiana Purchase, the Mexican-American War. Each time one of these events took place, we redrew the maps, made new lines. At first, when we learned this history as children, we saw this expansion only as a good thing. In elementary school, we didn't think so much about who was on the land before those colonists and settlers got there. I remember learning about Lewis and Clark and the Oregon Trail and the gold rush. It was exciting. Christopher Columbus was seen as a hero, discovering a new world, putting it on the map, drawing lines around it. We didn't learn so much about disease wiping out entire native villages or broken treaties, stolen land. We were taught to see maps and borders as a good thing. But who draws the lines around the countries? The imposition of international, state, reservation, and other borders on native lands changed relationships between people and their environment, affected how people lived, and isolated tribal citizens and family members from one another. We like to draw lines, but we forget how that fractures our society. And we're still drawing lines, right? Redlining affected who could buy homes where and contributed to racial divides. Redistricting and gerrymandering are ways of drawing lines that affects voting rights. During election season, we look at maps that show red and blue states representing an increasingly divided nation. We're fractured by racism. We're fractured by homophobia and transphobia. We're fractured over how we feel about abortion and the environment and what to do with unhoused people in our communities. Who drew the lines? Who drew the lines, but also who is benefiting from the lines? Who is gaining votes and ratings and profiting from divisions? These are questions we have to ask ourselves. In his book, The Expanding Circle, the philosopher Peter Singer traces how the modern world has changed things. We once only had to care for a narrow group of people, he explains, our kin, those in our tribe. Our instincts evolved in a world where most of our encounters were, in every sense, familiar. Friends and neighbors looked like us. Over a lifetime, we had countless chances to learn about their character, and they ours. We had a future together as a community, meaning that kindness and cruelty could be repaid. Karma was strong, direct, and unavoidable. Those we saw suffering were right in front of us, and by stepping in, we could make a difference. These small, tight-knit communities were empathy's primordial soup, packed with ingredients that make caring easy. The modern world, he says, has made kindness harder. As the world changed, as transportation and technology broadened the spaces we could travel, the diameter of our concern had to expand beyond tribe, town, and even nation. Now it encompasses the whole planet. The food we eat, the medicine we take, and the technology we use are sourced globally. Our survival depends on countless people we will never meet. And at the same time that our world is expanding, our connections are disintegrating. We depend on more people than ever before, but we know fewer of them. Rituals that bring us into regular contact, attending church, participating in team sports, even grocery shopping, have given way to solitary pursuits, often carried out over the internet. 50 years ago, Republicans and Democrats disagreed on policy over dinner, Jamil Zaki writes, but they still ate together. Now each side sees the other as stupid, evil, and dangerous. News organizations and social media platforms profit from our divisions. Outrage is one of their products, and it is a growth industry. If you wanted to design a system to break empathy, Zaki says, you could scarcely do better than the society we've created. So we are living with divided legacies. On the one hand, we are all one. We share one homeland, Pangaea. And if we use our imagination to remember back before we were born, before our ancestors were born, before the tectonic plates divided us, separated us, We are all related. One people. And the other legacy is that we have inherited tribalism, fear of the other, because it's built into our survival. Our brains are wired to fear what we don't know and not to fear what we do know. To be drawn to people who are familiar, look like us, act like us. And our patterns of empathy are built on this foundation of tight communities, on strong borders. But drawing lines around our communities also fractures us in an existential wound that breaks our spirits in ways that we don't even comprehend. Drawing borders circumscribes not just countries and political parties, but also hearts. It keeps our hearts small. Our spiritual task in a globalized world is to figure out how to grow our empathy, to unyoke it from tribalism, to remember that prehistoric world of Pangea. And how do we do that when we are so hardwired to separate ourselves from one another, to dominate each other, or to see each other as less than? I'm not sure. I don't know what the whole answer is. The only thing I could think of this week was this image of a map and going up to it with all its lines and licking my finger and erasing them, just scrubbing them off. Now, it seems unlikely that on the grander scale we're going to be able to undo the harm of our history, or bridge the divide between the parties, or create peace in the Middle East. Not as individuals, anyway, or as a small faith community on the very tip of Cape Cod. But maybe there are some ways in which we can do this on a small scale, a tiny scale, within our own lives and within our day. What if the answer is to focus on the borders that we experience within our own lives and put a toe across them? Talk to someone we don't usually talk to. Raise money for someone we don't know. Risk being kind to someone who thinks differently than we do, just to smudge the line a little. It's good to have boundaries, but instead we have been building walls. We have been isolating in our echo chambers of belief. We have stopped being good neighbors. We've allowed a scarcity mentality to convince us that if we share with others, there will not be enough for us. We've used the anonymity of the internet to sever the connections of karma, of intent and impact. And faced with an overwhelming planet full of cares, we have shut down a little, even to those standing right next to us. History has drawn the lines around the countries, but it's up to us to undraw the lines around our hearts. May it be so. Amen. And blessed be.
It has become our practice to pose a question based on the theme of the service each week. It can be a topic of sharing at coffee hour today, or with friends during the week. And if you'd like to delve deeper into this conversation, please join our Zoom coffee hour Tuesday at 5 p.m. Let Kenneth in the office know if you need that link. our question this week is, what is one line of separation you can reach across in the coming weeks? What is one line of separation you can reach across in the coming weeks?
I want to invite Catherine and Donna to share a little bit about our collection this morning. Oh, can you come up here?
Hello. Hi. First, I'd like to say that as an Italian American, I would like to propose a day to celebrate pizza and not Columbus. My grandparents came here from Italy because of poverty, and my grandparents came here from Italy because of poverty. They could no longer live there. And we're witnessing today, because of climate change and poverty and famine and war, huge numbers of migrants all across the world. And here on the Cape, we are seeing them for the first time in larger numbers come here. There's families at the Cape Cod Air Force Base. Mara Heerly is looking for places to put people. Here on the Outer Cape, it's very difficult. It's difficult for people to have work, to have transportation, and some of the burden of housing and welcoming migrants is happening in Hyannis. So I'd like to challenge us to erase that border between the Lower Cape and the places on the Cape that are accepting and welcoming and trying to take care of migrants. And one of these organizations is called Latinx in Action. It was started by a Portuguese immigrant, a woman, Katia, who works at Independence House. And we, as a group of artists on the Outer Cape, are sponsoring a benefit and a party to raise funds for this organization, Latinx in Action. Do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, sure. So the organization provides many different kinds of services. They have support groups for many different parts of the population. And they have a PFLAG group. They have gay, lesbian, trans, queer group. They have healing through art. They service some of the clients from Independence House, encouraging kind of art therapy for survivors of domestic violence. They also have child care services. They have resources to help people with paperwork and documentation. And they, I could go on and on. They have many different services. It is immigrant-led. It is volunteered staff. They do not have financing for paid staff. And they are always looking for more English teachers. They have 3 English second language classes, and they're always looking for volunteers if any of you are trained in teaching English. And they're always looking for people for help with grant writing proposals and the internet. So,
and they have a website, Latinx in Action.
Latinx in Action. So, and our specific group raised money. Since 2019, we raised money for people on the border living in deplorable conditions, but we've become more and more concerned about people who are already here or recently arrived needing services. This organization also has provided some resources for people at the Truro at the Air Force Base, because those people are desperately in need of services. So they work with many interfaith groups, and I think that's about it. Anyway, come next Sunday, 2 to 5 at the brewery, Provincetown Brewery, and You have cards that tell you the details of the benefit.
We're having
And-
a Latin dance party.
Latin dance party. People from Latinx in Action are bringing food that's, from their countries, and it should be fun. And if you donate over $50, you get to come and pick an original piece of artwork. And if there are any artists out there who feel compelled or interested, grab us afterwards. We're still taking donations of artwork. Nothing framed, nothing big, nothing too precious, but something that just conveys the spirit of what we're doing. Thank you.
And on the back of that card, there's a, what do you call it,
A QR code.
QR code if you want to contribute directly to the GoFundMe. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for bringing this organization to our attention, and we are about to take up a collection for Latinx in Action. You can give here in the sanctuary or online using those QR codes on the postcards or through our website using PayPal or Venmo. You can find our information at uumh.org. And if you're giving online through our website, please be sure to select Special Collection to make sure your money gets to Latinx in Action. At this point, I invite our choir up, and I also ask 4 volunteer ushers to come take our collection on and off-site. Your offerings for Latinx in Action will now be gratefully received.
So this song is
As I was finishing up writing this sermon, I was actually really disappointed to learn that humans did not actually exist during the time of the supercontinent Pangea. You see, it formed about 300 million years ago and began to break apart about 200 million years ago, which is about 194 million years before the first ancestors of humans were on Earth. So we can't depend on a memory of that world. Maybe we have to depend on a dream of a future world, one that doesn't exist yet. Maybe we have to build it together. Please join me in singing our closing hymn, number 121, We'll Build a Land. Please rise as you are able. Build the world together. Go in peace.